Welcome back everyone to part 4 of my Tokyo Revengers story analysis. It's been a short while since we last visited this series, but my thoughts on it are still quite fresh. The Valhalla Arc provided some very emotional moments that would go on to influence the main players in the Black Dragon's Arc current, whilst building up to an apex that seems to be arriving relatively soon. However, hindsight is 2020, and there is one glaring issue I took with the Valhalla Arc, and that happens to be Baji. I labeled Baji as a wild card in my previous analysis, and I stand by that assessment of his character. He appears to serve the plot for the arc and is disposed of in the same arc. His message about saving his friends is seemingly undercut because he sacrificed himself, which ended up harming them more than helping or protecting them. He's a complicated case because he exists for an arc and the explanation for his absence makes sense. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a character exist for an arc just to push that arc forward, but something about him being here one moment and gone the next felt super wrong to me, especially after he meant so much to Mikey. Pa, for example, was used much in the same way, but his inclusion pushes a proper understanding of what a delinquent shouldn't be, which is a message that lingers throughout the story. Baji is strictly there to move the plot forward, and we're meant to care that he dies when we've barely had any time to spend with him. He doesn't feel like a wasted character, he served his purpose after all. I just think that he could have been included into the story more before he died, as his friendship with Mikey is more told than shown, but that's more of a writing decision. Alright. Enough personal gripes. This week we have the Black Dragon's Arc, a section of the story that offers some sibling drama, underrated character change, and a demonstration of how bad delinquency has gotten in Japan. Prepare yourselves as we enter the Black Dragon's Arc, a story of familial drama. The Black Dragon's Arc picks up right where Valhalla left off, with Takamichi returning from another torn future, pushing him ever forward down this road he's on until he crashes into two people essential to the future. Hakkai and Yuzuha Shiba, two siblings who are relatively normal kids and a breath of fresh air since they are probably the only people with Tomen association that Takamichi does not meet through violence. Hakkai particularly seems deliberately normal. He's respectful, feels nervous around women, gets embarrassed rather easily, and isn't quick to anger, but he does look up to Mitsuya so much that he has him as his phone's wallpaper, viewing him as an older brother. Couple this with Yuzuha's phone wallpaper being of Hakkai, and it's a recipe for maybe a little bit too attached siblings. Their point of normalcy is understandable once their older brother Taiju is introduced though. Taiju stands in direct opposition to his siblings. He is a chaotic character to say the least, and from his introduction is a complete and utter monster physically and mentally. He's probably given Takamichi his worst beating thus far, even without knowing who he was. More importantly, his control over Hakkai using his words tells how deeply rooted he is in his younger brother's psyche. When he backhands Yuzuha, he shows that he is a physical, domineering presence over her and controls both of them through both words and physical abuse. He's an abuser through and through, so he's meant to be unlikable from the outset, someone not to be sympathized with at all. He gives off this aura that no other antagonist before him seemed to have. He's huge and wild like a tornado, delivering an immediate contrast to Mikey because his strength matches his physique. Yet his position in this story contrasts Mitsuya, who shares a spotlight with him. These two older brothers are nothing if not opposites from physique to speech and manners. This frame and subsequent conversation says all there needs to be said about the two of them as characters. Taiju is an individual that expresses his thoughts and feelings through violence and aggression. Mitsuya expresses his thoughts and feelings through rational thinking and discourse. This dichotomy that they share is essential to Hakkai and Yuzuha because of what they both mean to them, but more so Hakkai. Hakkai has served under Mitsuya, becoming part of his family from an early age. Mitsuya has shown him kind love, while Taiju has shown him rigid, jagged love. Yet his understanding of the wounds Taiju inflicted and the stitches Mitsuya applied have left him with ugly scars that remind him of what he still is. He's weak, which is why he resolves to murder Taiju instead of beating him into submission. A decision like this shows how delinquency has been used as a face for committing heinous crimes. In this story, there's been a continuous chain of cause and effect. Whenever someone wants to kill another, it never works out in their favor. Draken's assassination was a bust. Baji's assassination too was a bust. Every time a weaker individual uses cowardly tactics to ensure success, they fail and are punished in one way or another. Cowardice stems from fear, and fear stems from weakness. The bullies from the Shomen arc were scared of losing the respect that they had built up for themselves, so they resorted to killing Draken. Kazutora was scared of being alone and betrayed, so he resorted to killing Baji. And Hakkai is scared of not being able to protect his family, so he resolves to kill Taiju. Hakkai is this arc's coward who provides a major turning point in the narrative. He's a connector of all players now about to make their moves to approach the upcoming conflict with the Black Dragons. Interestingly of them all is Takamichi and Shifuyu allying with Kisaki because both of them know what he is and what he's capable of. Even after giving 100,000 yen or $670 for information, he's nowhere near trusted, and that's expected. Yet Takamichi relenting is both sad and foolish. He partners up with Shifuyu's killer, Hina's killer. His decision here is a sign of his desperation, and at the end of the arc has affected his decision making greatly. No greater is this clouded vision of Takamichi shown more so than when he breaks it off with Hina. A decision like this has felt somewhat predictable because of who he is. Takamichi has endured plenty of hardship but cannot seem to understand the necessity of those people he does it all for. He's always fighting the war by himself in his mind, undermining the efforts so many others put in to help him weather the storm directly or indirectly. Cutting people off does nothing for him except leave him twisting in the wind before he faces off against Taiju. The Christmas showdown is more than a personal conflict. It's more than just about the future. It's the essence of brotherhood and true connection with others. First things first though. After a completely expected betrayal by Kisaki, Mitsuya and Shifuyu arrive on the scene to help Takamichi as Hakkai is paralyzed by fear despite all that is at stake. His personal struggle stops him from being any help for the group and manifests itself in more than his submission to fear, but living a lie. Hakkai is an inherently flawed individual because of what he is, not who he is. He's caring, kind, and wants to protect those close to him. The coward and liar prohibit him from acting on these stand-up aspects of his character. The wounds which created his scars are what he thinks of, not the stitches made for them to heal. He hasn't changed enough since meeting Mitsuya. He's submitted to his scars and believes if he disposes of the wounds that created them, he'll be better for it. He fails to see that being weak is okay. It's not about the wounds that scarred him. It is what he does in spite of them. Mitsuya pushes him to look inward for strength rather than outward. His story and role as a proper older brother for Hakkai is received too little too late, pulling him in a direction he couldn't fathom walking in. Mitsuya gave him a moral code and a stable place to stand on. On the other hand, Taiju has pushed him down a road of set expectations and what he should be inside of his mind. Both of them bring out different sides of Hakkai. It is Taiju that brings out the worst in his younger brother, and by extension, he is the one in control of his actions. Funnily enough, a strong connector of these three characters is their hair colors. Mitsuya has silverish hair, Hakkai's hair is a dark blue, and Taiju's hair is a mixture between both. It's a detail that would have fit more on Hakkai because of his relationship with Mitsuya and Taiju, but his short hair matches up with Mitsuya's similarly short hair, the dark blue coloring matching up with Taiju, and the short hair matching up with Mitsuya, giving a good contrast in his character. The concentration of dark blue in Taiju's hair shows how dominant his violent tendencies are over himself and his brother. His silverish hair, like Mitsuya's, shows the genuine love he feels for his brother though. However, it's lost in a large amount of dark blue hair. Taiju's violence pushes Hakkai to stray from a true delinquent, but Mitsuya and Yuzuha aren't much better though. He's pushed a moral code on Hakkai. He's forced him into a position where he's trying to appeal to Mitsuya's faith in him. Yuzuha has removed his agency by taking on his mission of killing Taiju. No one has related to his struggle. He's been pushed around by others' expectations and their protection. He didn't develop into a young man, so he cowers like a child. When Takamichi starts talking to Hakkai, he doesn't act like an older brother or protector. He simply tells Hakkai how it is and what his course of actions will lead to. Fighting Taiju and placing their lives on the line to save Hakkai and teach him something valuable. That's what everyone's been doing in word but not practice. Hakkai and Takamichi are the same because their weakness is their redeeming quality. Hakkai is weak-willed, but that is what makes him so kind to those he calls friends because they don't care that he is. Takamichi is physically weak, but that is what makes him understand the struggles of everyone else so easily. They're opposites and better for it because in this arc, they fill in what the other lacks. Even after his lie, it doesn't change anything because Hakkai never knew what it meant to fight in spite of being weak. Takamichi gave him the courage to tell the truth and stand up to fight beside everyone who fought to protect him. Hakkai has his moment of realization that even if everyone else is weak, They have the strength of others to lift them up. So he stands up to fight the man who poisoned him with fear his entire life. He stands with those who showed him compassion, those who have been fighting with him this entire Christmas night. His real family, his real brothers, which brings us to Yuzuha and Mikey's subsequent arrival. Yuzuha has endured a lot. Far more than she should, and even more than she should have shouldered alone. The dynamic of these three siblings have been on her back since their mother passed, and it shows. She takes on Hakkai's suffering by surviving any and all of what Taiju throws at her, because he's suffering too. The loss of their mother forced her to shoulder the pain of her brothers, to facilitate the lie of Hakkai being what he would become in the future. However, outsiders, no, family saved her from being alone. A testament to what it means to have meaningful connections, and the easiest way to solve your problem is not always the correct way to go about things. Yuzuha and Hakkai were victims who endured horrible abuse, but would killing Taiju really have healed them? From the future shown, the answer is no, it wouldn't have. Yet not killing Taiju placed everyone in a lose-lose situation until Draken and Mikey make the save. Throughout this ordeal, Mikey has been clearly losing himself more and more. After Shinichiro, Baji, and Kazutora, he's been getting chipped away piece by piece, losing himself to the traumatic circumstances haunting his life, and when he looks like he's fallen off into the deep end, he comes back up to air by cherishing what is left of his loved ones and braving the difficult road of moving forward. A tastefully done through line for his character that connects to the siblings' struggle simultaneously. Furthermore, Mikey firing Kisaki is an extension of him being in control of his emotions and capable of making logical decisions that aid Tomen. He seemed to understand that he needs someone to bring him back from the darkness when he becomes lost in it. He seemed to find balance in his life going forward. Everything should have worked. Tomen should have been okay until the end of this arc happened. This future is worse than the last. Everyone is gone, and again, it is indirectly Takamichi's fault. He left Tomen behind. He left Mikey behind. For Mikey, it was like losing his brother all over again, losing his light again while Takamichi pushed forward. Mikey fell from a height he couldn't survive. He's killed everyone because he lost to his pain. No longer was he a delinquent, friend, or victim for that matter. He became a killer, and the fire for Takamichi to take up his role as a survivor and the predictable savior. Takamichi's desperation and Mikey's trauma come into full effect during this arc to disastrous effect. Takamichi's faced one-sided odds before, but this time they felt overwhelmingly so. Mikey's finale in the arc had been brewing for a bit, yet the serial murders felt so out of left field. While Kisaki's hand in their murders previously made sense, Mikey's outburst in this timeline falls less into the category of wow, that makes sense, and more so, okay, why though? Anyway, we've wrapped up this arc, and it wasn't too bad all things considered. Next time we'll be covering an arc I'm not too fond of, but maybe on a reread that will change. Thank you all so much for watching. Please stay safe out there and have yourselves a damn good one. I'll see you all next time.